was sleeping, and I woke up to something crawling through my hair. It was in my hair, crawling across my hair. I don't know how it got into the tent at the time, and I just screamed. My sister bolted up, and we were both screaming. It was about the size of my hand. We did have bug problems. Sometimes we had spiders. Spiders seemed to crawl in everywhere. So those are the kinds of bug problems we had in Latin America. We had bug problems up in Canada. They're called black flies, and one time we stopped to have lunch, and the black flies, they look like normal house flies, but they bite, and they were so bad. In order for us to eat lunch, we had to set up our tent and jump in it to be able to eat lunch.
Tim, can you jump into a tent that size?
Well, you got to throw it up first because we're parked on the side of the road with the bikes. So, yeah, I can jump in, and then we zip it up and eat lunch, and then we could crawl out and pack it up and go. But the bugs typically stay out of the tent, but if you leave the door open a little bit in the middle of the night when you go to the bathroom or something, if you don't close it up. Then once in Costa Rica, a crab got into the tent and really scared Cindie, and her sister was visiting us at the time.
Was your sister in the tent?
Yes, we were both in the tent. And the funny thing is my sister doesn't camp. And she said before we went to sleep, she said, "Now, Cindie, I'm worried. Are there crabs going to get into the tent?" And I said, "Sherry, no, crabs never get into the tent." Well, we were also in there with our nephew, my nephew James, who was 8 at the time, and he got up and went to the bathroom in the middle of the night. When he came back in, he left the tent zipper open just a little bit, just enough for a crab to come inside. And I don't know why he came inside, but I woke up and I felt something in my hair. And I was like, what is that? What is that? And I put my hand on it, and it was a crab. And I had all I could do. I held my breath not to scream because I didn't want to wake everybody up. And I'm shaking, and I pick up the crab, and I threw it out the tent, and I zipped it back up, and my heart raced. It was amazing. And then the next morning I had to tell my sister about the crab in the tent.
Hey, Tim, what did it sound like to you?
Well, I heard somebody scream. I don't know about sneaking the crab out of the tent. I heard somebody scream.
So she didn't tell the whole truth then, did she?
I don't think so.
Well, like I said, my nephew accidentally left part of the tent's zipper open. So in the middle of the night, a crab had crawled into our tent, and I was sleeping, and I woke up to something crawling through my hair. And when I woke up and put my hand on it, it was a crab, and I screamed.
So you're saying that the crab was in your hair?
It was in my hair, crawling across my hair. I don't know how it got into the tent at the time, and I just screamed. My sister bolted up, and we were both screaming. And then James woke up, and he was screaming, and I grabbed the crab and threw it out of the tent.
How big was this crab?
It was about the size of my hand. It was a time when the crabs were losing their shells, so it was a real soft shell crab. So, it didn't pinch me or anything like that, but it scared me to death. It was in this tent. About a year ago, we started traveling from Valdez, Alaska, down the west coast of the U.S., and one of our first nights in the tent was near Tok, Alaska, and we had set up our tent. It was July, so it was warm outside, and we had set the tent up just like this without the fly on it, and the sun stays up late there, so it's pretty light almost all night long. At 11 o'clock at night, it's bright. So about 2:30 in the morning, I woke up to go to the bathroom, and we're camped next to a lake, and I get up, I go to the bathroom, and I come back and lay back down. Now, we knew that there were bears in the area, so we had carried with us bear spray. And one of the things that you do to prevent bears from attacking you is to keep food out of your tent. So I came back to pretty much an empty tent except for Tim, and I get in and I go lay back down, and then all of a sudden I heard somebody walking around outside. So very slowly I unzipped the tent and took a look outside, and there was a black bear not 5 feet from the tent walking around, and I froze. And I thought, Tim, so I didn't want to scream. I didn't scream, and I gently shook Tim and said, Tim, there's a bear. And he didn't quite hear me the first time. And then I said, Tim, there's a bear. And when he registered what I said, his whole body levitated off the ground, and he sat up right away, and he grabbed the bear spray and unzipped the tent, and by the time he got out of the tent, the bear had walked away. But it was so scary to know that they're just right there, and they are out at night.
And you never keep food in the tent because of that.
Tell us about that.
Because a bear, if they smell food in the tent, a black bear doesn't eat meat, but they will fight you for your food, even though you're not putting up much of a fight. So you keep all your food away from the tent so they don't think you're defending your food. So he walked by and he knew we were there, but we didn't have anything he wanted. All of our food was locked up. So he just looked, we didn't have anything he wanted, he moved on.
You locked it up. What do you mean?
Well, at this point, we were camping in a roadside stop with a bathroom, so we actually put all of our food in the bathroom. Well, we were cycling in Honduras and crossing the country, and we pulled off the road just in some woods we found and found a place to camp. And during the middle of the night, Cindie wakes me up and says, Tim, I hear voices outside. And Honduras isn't the safest of countries, so I go outside and I worry, I'm looking for people and I don't find anybody. So I go back to bed. And then Cindie wakes me up again and says, Tim, there's people outside. You better go stop them. And I go outside and I look all over and there's no people. And finally I go back to bed. But I'm so wound up now and worried that there's going to be robbers or people coming to harm us that I stay awake. And Cindie goes back to bed. And I can hear her snoring a little and then wake up out of a sleep and say, Tim, I hear people. And I say, Cindie, this is a dream. There are no people. You keep waking me up because you hear people in your dreams. So then we went back to bed and we had no trouble that night in the tent.
What was the problem?
I think I was worried. And I think my fear of people coming to rob us in the middle of the night was just really coming out in my dreams. And it taught me that I really don't like camping where I'm afraid. And we, in the future, made it a policy to make sure we felt safe when we camped.
Well, Cindie, from your point of view as a woman, have you noticed that men are different than women?
Oh yes, definitely.
Is this a problem?
It has its pluses and minuses. Tim and I have taken the differences and turned it into a teamwork. For example, Tim is a lot stronger than I am on the bike, and consequently, he carries a lot more weight. And
Do you ride her on your handlebars? Is that what she's telling us?
No, seems like it sometimes, but no, I just carry a lot more weight, probably double the weight that Cindie carries.
The cargo is what you're trying to say.
Cargo, the weight on the bike. What's in our panniers, our clothes, our stove, our toiletries. I carry the light stuff like the sleeping bags. Tim carries the heavy things like the tent. We carry a laptop with us. He carries that. He carries the food, which can be very heavy and change in volume and weight constantly. So he takes on all the heavy lifting. And then on top of that, I ride behind him. And because Tim is bigger than I am, I get behind him. And it's actually 30% easier for me to ride behind him in his draft, or
Really?
they call us slipstream. Yes, 30% easier. I wouldn't be able to keep up with him if that was the case. And, if we rode side by side. He's just stronger than I am.
If you ever watch a bike race, you'll notice that they're always in a long line.
Yeah.
And that's because the guy or woman in front is doing more of the work and everyone lines up behind them to do less of the work.
Well, then, just as an item of interest here, does it make it harder on the person who's in front if somebody's behind?
Yes, it's definitely 30% harder on the person in front than the person in back.
Oh, so that 30%
I get.
she gets, but you pay for it.
I pay for it, she gets it, yeah.
Right. And so at the end of the day, you can guess who's more tired than I am. We average 4 to 6 hours in the saddle every day. And, because we build up our fitness, our fatigue is not there. But there's a lot to do when we are bike touring. We camp a lot. And so we have to take the tent, put the tent up, take it down.
And how far can you go in 4 to 6 hours?
Oh, 40 to 60 miles.
But it's kind of a trick question, right?
Yeah, it depends on if it's all, there's days we've had where it's all uphill. We'll literally ride uphill for 3 or 4 days and go downhill for 1 day. The Andes in South America has mountains that big.
This is what I was thinking of.
And the Himalayas, when we went through Tibet, has mountains that big.